What is going on, everyone? We're here with another spotlight interview series hosted by yours truly, ACK. It's been a hell of a couple weeks here. Just a lot of work with music, actual work, and now I'm getting back in the groove of things, having some new interviews, and I'm super excited for today's interview. I have a really talented singer-songwriter on here, and I was listening to all her songs this morning. Huge fan of Ghost Story, huge fan of Jealous. I had to put those on repeat twice while I was listening to everything else.
Yeah.
Um, but today I have Christie Huff here. Christie, how are you today?
Well, thank you. I'm good. How are you? I'm so excited to be here
No,
today.
I'm excited to have you on. I'm excited to kind of hear your story through music because that's what this whole interview is about. It's about you. I mean, yeah, I'm a songwriter and producer myself, but I don't brag too much about myself when it comes to the interviews because I want to hear your story and I want fans to kind of hear what you're doing in the industry because people sometimes don't understand like the stuff that goes in the works of creating a song and just your day-to-day life as a singer-songwriter. Like people just say, oh, she released a new song, like that's cool, like great song, but then people, this interview helps with the backstory of everything and how everything came about
But
for you, and exactly, and the
yeah,
whole
yeah.
process behind it. So I just appreciate you taking time today to kind of talk about your story through music.
No, of course. I'm excited to be here. And yeah, it's like much more. I mean, you know how it is too, as like an artist. It's like you release like that one song or like that one video, and it's like people see like, oh, like they hear it like that, they go and listen to it when it's released and like, oh, cool. But then it's like we know like the work behind the scenes and then
Exactly.
like the promotion behind like
Yeah.
everything. It's like,
Exactly. And no, and there's a whole process behind it. And that's why it's just
yeah.
always super cool and super unique to kind of hear everyone's story.
Mhm.
So kind of just jumping right into the first question here is everyone knows I start with the basic of basics and it's always cliche, but where did music start for you? That's always a starting point to just go through your whole story. I
Yeah.
know for myself, I only started back in 2018 with the songwriting and producing and stuff. So that was only like 4 or 5 years ago for me. But then some people I've met that started singing when they came out of the womb and they've developed like throughout the years and stuff like that. So just where did like the whole singing and playing, how did everything come about for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm probably closer. Not like I came out of the womb singing, but like I have three sisters and we're all very like, we're into like musicals and like dancing and like yeah, just like singing growing up. And I loved musicals and loved like Annie and Evita and like the Phantom of the Opera. So I kind of got my start with music and my love for music with musical theater, and I went to like Camp Broadway growing up and everything. And I just really loved I really just loved singing and all the songs that came from that. And then I grew up in the era of like when Taylor Swift first was coming out and like Carrie Underwood and Michelle Branch, so for me, like when Taylor Swift came out and started like writing songs, that's what kind of like got me to be like, whoa, like a girl, like she's a girl, like, she's like 5 or 6 years older than I am, but like she's close to my age and she's like writing songs about like her crush. Like I can do that. So like that almost like gave me permission to just like start writing songs about like my everyday middle schooler life.
Yeah.
So I think my first song was like I was like probably like 14 and I wrote it. I didn't play an instrument yet, but I wrote it with GarageBand, like the
Mhm.
loops and
Yep.
stuff. So, and then I started playing guitar when I was like 16, 17, and then started writing songs on my guitar like my senior year of high school or so.
Yeah. No, so that's, I mean, that's just awesome. Like I said, it's always cool to hear people's upcoming in music and how they really started because, like I said, people don't realize how the craft works and how they develop that. And it's cool that you mentioned a couple of those artists because listening to some of your songs earlier today, I can hear those tones of I like in the lyric wise, I can hear Taylor Swift in the lyrics. And then
Yes.
when it comes to the vocals, I'm like, wait a second, is that Christie or is that Carrie Underwood? Like I'm confused. And then like I
Oh,
just like
thank
it's
you.
mind blowing to me because especially your song, which one? Oh, Ghost Story. When I was listening to that earlier, I was like, the first verse, I'm like, is this like, I literally had like, I double checked myself to make sure I didn't have a playlist on because I really thought it was Carrie Underwood at one point. And
Well,
I'm
you know what's kind of funny? Okay, so I released my song Ghost Story in January, and then
yep.
Carrie Underwood just released a song called
Yes.
Ghost Story like a month ago. I was like, man, I'm kidding.
Hey, she took it from you, so just think about it
Exactly.
that
Like,
way. You
I'm
did it
glad that I at
first
least
and
released
she
mine first, you know?
exactly. No, so it's cool to kind of hear. Obviously, this is probably going to lead into the next question here is talking about inspirations. Obviously, you kind of Taylor Swift, you said was a big one for you that really like
Yes.
opened the door for the whole songwriting. But kind of other than that, I mean, I know for me, for example, I'm a country boy at heart, and that 90s, early 2000s
Yes.
country is what really just gave me
Yes.
that passion for music. And even not music wise, my mom is a huge inspiration to me because she really crafted that country music into me, because when she was always just sitting at the house like cleaning, or we were just having parties and stuff like that, the country music would always be playing,
It's
and that's
always
what
around you. Yeah.
exactly. And then like Travis Tritt, Randy Houser, Garth Brooks, just to name a few of them off the
Oh
top of my
wow. I
head.
love Garth Brooks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm actually going to see him in literally, yeah, actually a week from today. So
I'm
super.
jealous.
I know.
Like, oh,
I've been trying to go for like 2 years, but COVID kept canceling and postponing it. So now I'm finally going next week, and I'm actually going with my mom and a couple other family members. So
that'll be
it'll
fun.
exactly, it'll be so much fun. But so those are real like inspirations for
Yeah.
me. So kind of like music wise, and just even like I said, like my mom, like so family wise too, just
Yeah.
who are some of your inspirations that like you kind of really look up to just in general, like
Yeah.
for your music?
Man, so music wise, now I'm like, I really, really love Casey Musgraves,
Yep.
like all of her songwriting and everything like that. But then honestly, for me, like when I was like graduating high school and I was like deciding if I should go to college or like pursue music, um, somebody who's like was like a really big inspiration that like I looked up like their story and like what they did to like kind of pursue music was Ed Sheeran.
Yep.
Like I looked up and he was like, yeah, like I went to LA and I played at these places and I just kept on doing this and that. So that really inspired me, because then I like kind of had like, I guess a little bit, because you know how it is as a musician, you don't really have like a roadmap of like what to do, you
Exactly.
know? So he was kind of like a roadmap for me when he was like, yeah, I would go and like, you know, write with people in LA and in Nashville and like play at these places and go to these open mics and things like that. So for me, as like coming from high school, which I would, you know, I like to sing in my school choir and like talent shows and write songs in my room.
Yep.
It was really nice to kind of like see his journey so that I could kind of mimic it. Then I'm like, oh, okay, I'll go to these places for open mics in LA to get my start, and then I'll go and write with these people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was he was a big inspiration for me for a long time, and I love his songwriting too. He's so good.
No, that's awesome. And it's just always cool because I never really get the same answers when I ask like questions like that. Is it's always
Yeah.
just different, and it's cool because I don't box myself in. Yes, I do love country music, and that holds a place in my heart, but I listen to pop music, rap music, rock, like
Exactly.
just anything. So it's always cool just to hear everyone's inspirations. And then sometimes people like come out of left field and they're like, oh, hey, do you know this person? Like that's who like really inspired. And I'm like,
That's
yes, I
who,
do. And like
yeah.
people sometimes are shocked by that.
And they
Um,
can like inspire you, like because like Ed Sheeran's like singer songwriter, British pop or whatever, you know,
yeah,
but his like storytelling and songwriting was like country, like, or you know what I mean? So I was like, oh,
exactly.
so cool. Like,
Exactly. And obviously those are two words that are about to lead into the next question is songwriting. Always a powerful, powerful thing because I really connect. I go deeper into music when it comes to people's lyrics and just telling that story and having the emotions in the lyrics because I feel like a broken record, but I always say this, back in 2018 when my grandfather passed away is when I wrote my first ever song. And just the lyrics and story behind that are so powerful and so emotional to me that
yeah.
that's just what draws me into other people's music like you, just your songwriting and your techniques that you use and stuff like that. It's super, super powerful.
Thank
And kind of before I ask the question, I have to shout him out is Garrett Walker. He was on the show, super talented country artist, but he sets up this question for me now at this point because of the quote that he gave. So songwriting is like a puzzle, whether you have 500 or 1,000 pieces. But how people do 1,000 piece puzzles, I have no idea. I could do like 500, maybe 250, but that's it. But anyway, you have all these pieces scrambled on the table, and you're trying to figure out where these pieces go. And then slowly
Yeah.
you start putting the border together. You start putting the middle together. You realize,
Yeah.
oh, this piece goes there, or maybe that piece can go over there, and I can come back to this other one
Yeah.
later.
That's a cool analogy
Yeah.
to like
So
describe songwriting. That's so cool.
exactly. And so
Yeah.
he was on the show like halfway through when I started really doing this stuff. So just that whole analogy, because then by the end you have this full puzzle, you have this full
Yes.
picture, the whole project is there in the palm of your hands, and you have it that you can put up on your wall
Put
or
it
that you
there.
can just
Yeah.
cherish for the rest of your life. So the question is what is your creative process like when it comes to writing music?
Yeah. Well, that's like a great, honestly, like the analogy of a puzzle. I've never thought of it that way, but that's so true. Cause like I just had I took like 2 months off from writing for like and stuff. And I went back to LA this weekend for some shows, and I had my first write in 2 months. And we actually started writing the song. I came in with like a melody. So I guess to answer your question, it changes every single time, but sometimes if I'm like writing alone, it's kind of like what you were saying, like that feeling where it's like I need to write the song after my grandfather died, because I have all these emotions and feelings
Exactly.
inside of me, and like I just need to let them out in a creative way. That I do a lot of songwriting like that, where it's like like I just write about things that are going on in my life, and I just kind of like sit down and do it all in one take or one time.
Yep.
But then like this, my most recent song that I just wrote, I had this melody that I put in my like voice memos a couple of months ago, and I kind of had like a title of it. And a lot of the time this happens with me, like I'll have like a melody and then like a title or what might be the hook come out, and then usually I'll bring that into like a session. So like I brought this into the session, and then we ended up using that melody as like the verse, and then the what I put as like the title was like the title of the song and became the hook. And then but we actually started like lyrically, like melodies are my jam. I love melodies. And I feel like more times than not, either I have lyrics come with a melody together, or I come with melodies first and then build on that. But we started messing around, and the first lyrics that we wrote for this song was the bridge. So then it's like that was like the first puzzle piece. We had like these other puzzle pieces that we found to like, okay, we know that this is going to be what the song's about, and then this is the beginning melody. But the first lyrics came from the bridge, and then we like kind of like, and then we went into the chorus, and then we built from the verses. So it changes every single time, but like more times than not, I feel like I love coming in with some type of a melody idea and then going from there. Or if I'm writing alone, then I'll start with a melody and then just kind of build on that too.
Yeah.
So but it changes every time, you know?
No,
So
exactly. No, and
yeah,
literally that's how everyone always starts
yeah,
answering that question is they're just like, I don't have a rhyme or reason to it. And there really
exactly.
isn't, there's never a wrong or right answer to that question, because you can start with, like, I know for me, I start with the lyrics and then I work towards the melody and start getting that together.
Okay.
But for you, obviously, it's kind of a
Yeah,
360. You
exactly.
start with the
Yeah.
melody, you hear this tone, like this melody that you have, and then you kind of fit the
Get like
lyrics in where they're supposed to go.
inspiration from that. And that's what's cool. Like I love that it is different every single time, because then it's not really like yes, if the more songs you write, the more you kind of like create your own formula of sorts. But
Exactly.
like it's exciting that it is kind of different and new each time, you
Yeah,
know?
and
So
like you had actually, like you kind of said earlier too, is there's no rule book, or
yeah.
there's no guide to the whole songwriting process and being an
To any of
artist. So
this.
like,
Yeah.
and that gives you so much flexibility and just so much open space to just do what you need to do as a songwriter.
It's
Um
kind of freeing. It's like sometimes I'm like, wait, what do I do? But then you're like, it doesn't matter. Like literally, like
exactly. You
whatever you
can
want,
you
you know?
have can you have control over your whole process and what you want to do and where you want to go with your music and how you want people to connect with you. So it's just, and that's just, it's really cool just to kind of hear that, because the fourth question that I ask is always the hardest question.
Oh
Um,
no.
and people freeze up on this one all the time, but I tell people again, there's no wrong or right answers to any of these. And it is a difficult question because I've told numerous artists on here is if you were to ask me this question, I don't know if I would be able to actually come up with an answer on the spot. So that's why I get the relief of asking the question
Yeah,
and
yeah,
not
yeah.
having to answer it.
Really put the pressure on.
Exactly. So obviously it doesn't matter what genre you're in, whether it's country, rap, pop, R&B, but there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of artists out there up and coming and just out there that are starting to make a name for themselves, and they're trying to connect with their audience and try to connect with new people to gain more of a bigger fan base. So at the end of the day, you have a lot of amazing songs out, and you're doing your thing. But what can people take away from your music that no one else can? So, what makes Christie Huff Christie Huff?
Man, that is a hard question. That's a good question, and I feel like that's almost like the ultimate question, like to ask an artist, because we live in like a world of like it's great because it's like everybody, if you want to become an artist, like we have a platform that like we can,
Yeah.
and everything. But then it's like that one thing where it's like you need to like stand out and like you need to do all that kind of stuff. And I feel like for me, the answer to this question has probably changed over the years, because I feel like when I was first starting out, I was like, oh, I'm like a blonde country singer. I want my takeaway to be like a like girl next door type stuff.
Yeah.
But like the older I've gotten and like the more like life experience I've gotten, I just kind of like, for me, what I want to put out with my music is just like I want to put out A, music that I like, and B, music that like um I like had a feeling and I needed that feeling to be out in the world.
Yeah.
So I guess like what I want people to take away, it's probably cliche to say, but it's like I would love for them to be able to relate, like even if like Ghost Story, it's like that was about a breakup that I had, and it was like there's parts of that song that are personal to me, but then that can also be universal to other people, so I feel like I would just want people to like take away like the feeling, like a memory or something, because like for me, like I did like a 6-hour drive yesterday, and I was like listening to like my playlist, and I have songs that I added different times in my life when I was going through different things that like it's emotional. So I would love just to like be that for somebody, like, oh, I added this song to my playlist when I was going through that, and it brings back all of these different memories.
Yeah.
So I would just like people to take away like a piece of their own story with my story that they can like bring on like in their life and have some type of memory
No,
associated with my music. I think that would be great.
no, exactly. No, and it's such a great answer because so kind of like what you're saying, if I understood all that correctly, is
Yeah, I know.
you
Sorry,
want
like,
to no, but you want to connect with your audience and you want them to connect with your music, but you also want to connect with them to make sure that they're feeling the right stuff that you are putting out there. And
yes,
that's
yes,
such a powerful thing because I've talked about this numerous times on interviews and stuff like that, and I don't mean to bash any big name country artists or anything like that, get lawsuits up my hands, but sometimes when you get up that big, sometimes like I don't know, like just say like Luke Combs and Morgan Wallen, just like they're so big,
yeah.
sometimes that connectivity with the fans, like as an up and coming artist like yourself, it grows so much that it's hard to really sit down and like talk to a few fans and really grasp that whole concept. So it's always
Yeah.
kind of cool just to hear up and coming artists like yourself, like me, to really just have the time to sit there and listen to some of the fans that you have to really make sure that they're connecting with what you have out there.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. And I feel like too, it's like at some point, like I'm like, yeah, like I have these goals that I want to pursue and everything, but I'm like, I just want to like do what I like, release music that I feel good about. And like if that connects to somebody, then that's all, you can ask for. Yeah.
Exactly. No, and I mean, just quick little side story actually, because it just fits into that, is when I wrote the song about my grandfather, 2 years after I had written that, we were having a family party one day and a family friend was over, and he didn't really know that I was like doing the whole songwriting thing and like producing and stuff like that. And he didn't realize that I had ever wrote that song about my grandfather. And at the time when we were having that conversation, his father had just passed away 2 weeks before that. So he's like, listen, I'm probably gonna cry after I hear this anyway, because I'm gonna start thinking
Yeah.
about my dad. But he's like, let me take let me listen to it, put it on the speaker, and let me see what's going on. And
Wow.
he sat there and listened to that, and he cried, and I got emotional and stuff like that. But the thing that I really took away from that is what he said to me is, he said, if I knew that that song was out 2 weeks ago when we were at my father's services, I would have had that playing as we were carrying the casket out. And
Oh my God.
right then and
Yeah.
there, that just like my heart dropped. And I said, honestly, right now, from this point on, I could just stop songwriting and stop producing, because right there, that just made my day. And
Exactly.
that just like,
Yeah.
that's my goals. And like, that's what I want people to take away from my music. And it's just,
Well,
that was just one of the most powerful things I've ever seen.
that's so powerful. And sometimes I feel like, okay, like if you're Morgan Wallen or like a Carrie Underwood type person, that people, like if you were them, that your song is reaching somebody. But it's like, like like us, like as up and coming artists, it's like we don't always know if anybody A is even listening, and B, if what we're putting out, if people are like feeling anything from it. So that's like really cool to like hear like those like different stories from different people. And then it just kind of makes you like think like, okay, somebody's listening out there. We don't know
Exactly.
who,
No,
so we got to keep going.
exactly. And it gives you confirmation. You're like, okay, I can actually do this. Like, this is connecting with
Yes.
people. And then it's like, because at some points, like you sit there, and I know I've crumpled up numerous pieces of paper and threw a lot of paper out and stuff like that from writing
Yeah.
songs. And some days I just feel like I have to sit there and give up, because I'm like, I can't do this. But then
Yeah.
things like that story that I just said is what really pushes me and
Keeps you
drives me.
going.
Exactly. And it
Yeah.
just keeps the blood flowing. And then that helps set new goals and new achievements that you want to accomplish. And that's kind of leading into this question, is why I'm talking about goals and
Nice.
stuff like that. I always just love to lead
You're
into
good
the
at
next.
leading
I
things in.
I
That's
know,
good.
I just love
Keep
leading
it
into the
going.
next questions. But so kind of the last question before we hear something from you, is, what are your goals as an artist? Obviously you have a bunch of songs out right now, and I've been
Yeah.
jamming to them all morning, but obviously, do you have more new music on the way? And just kind of, what are your short-term and long-term goals, and just what can we expect from you down the road?
Yeah. So, yes, I do have new music in the works. I just released like an EP, but like it was like singles that I put together and released it as an EP, along with a new song, a new cover song, Mr. Brightside. So I released that EP in April, and then I'm gonna take some time. I have songs on deck, but I'm gonna take a little time in between so I can like really get the promotion, TikTok, like, all the stuff that we have to do as artists. Um, which is, it's like fun, but like to me, I love just like creating, and like if I could just create and like put it out there without promoting it or anything, it would be great. But it's like we have to put that time and energy in. So I'm going to take a little bit of a break and probably start releasing music again in the fall. But then in the meantime, just keeping on writing and keeping on playing shows. And I'm actually going to New York next week for a little tour. So I'm really excited for that. And then in the summer, I guess we are in summer. It's like, it's May, it's crazy. Just play some more shows, go back out to Nashville, LA, and then yeah, more shows. And then I'm just going to continue just to write a lot of songs. And I want like the first song of my break to be something that like is really connecting with people, of like things that are happening to me right now. So I'm gonna just kind of like feel what I'm feeling right now and like write. So
Right.
that's kind of my goal for right now.
No, and that's awesome. Because like I said, you have a lot of amazing songs out right now, and I definitely just can't wait to see what comes in the next few months and within the next few years from you. I'm
Thank
definitely
you.
on this ride with you, and I've had a blast just hearing your story through music.
So much fun. Thank you.
No, of course. So kind of getting into the fun part is hearing a song from you. Obviously, usually when this happens is usually people do their own songs and stuff like that, but we're listening to a cover that you actually did. So what actually kind of made you decide to put this cover out there?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been releasing, like original songs for the last like 2 years. I've been doing like a new song every 4 to 6 weeks. And I really wanted to like put out a song that like we all know and love, but kind of do my own take on it. So I love Mr. Brightside. Like that is just like one of the songs that I'm like, it's just like a car jamming song. And it's like one of my favorite songs, and I never thought about covering it. And then I was talking to my producer, and we were like, and we were like, oh my gosh, like I'm a girl and a country artist singing the song. Like that would be really cool to kind of try and make it our own. But like the vibe is still there. We didn't want to like change it too much. The vibe is still kind of like grungy, but there's definitely, I think because I'm a female country artist singing it, it makes it a little different. And then we have like fiddle and like other country elements to it. So yeah, I just wanted to put something out there that like everybody knows, but kind of make it my own and a little different than you've heard it before.
No, absolutely. And like I said, I am super excited to hear this. So kind of without further ado, we're going to take a listen to Mr. Brightside. Not the original song, obviously. This is from
Yeah.
Christie Huff. So we'll play a little bit of it and let's take a listen. All right, so I'm gonna cut that off there. Everyone always yells at me, but like I told Christy before the interview started, is I always cut it off right there because I want y'all to go listen to that. I want y'all to go listen to all her other songs, especially "Jealous" and "Ghost Story" because I think y'all will vibe with that, like I have been.
Thank
But
you.
super great job on that, Christy. And like I said,
Thank
you're just
you.
a super talented singer songwriter, and I had a blast having you on the show today and talking
So
about
much
your story.
fun. Thank you so much for having me.
No, of course. Kind of before I do my little outro, like people know, is where can we find you on all social medias?
Yes, you guys can find me Christie Huff, or you can go to my website, christiehuff.com, and there are links to everything. But usually it's just Christie Huff Music, and you'll be able to find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, everywhere basically. So
That's
go find me.
not perfect. That is plain and simple enough. Y'all definitely go check her out. And like I said, super excited for more new things to come from you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. It was
No,
lovely.
of course. So that kind of concludes another episode of the Spotlight series hosted by yours truly, ACK. Y'all know the drill is Sundays, 1 p.m. Eastern. We got a new artist on here. Never know who it's gonna be. So y'all stay tuned for next week and thanks for tuning in.